If you're planning to rent a car in Iceland, there are 5 things that you need to know before you book. And actually, number 2 and number 5 will help to save you money, while the other ones will definitely be helpful in terms of saving you time and just some understanding about how things work here. So make sure you watch all the way through so you don't miss out on these valuable tips. For people new to my channel, my name is Jules and I'm the host of All Things Iceland, in which I give people the inside scoop on Icelandic nature, history, culture, travel, and language. So, number 1 when it comes to what you need to know before renting a car in Iceland is, of course, the process for it. So when you're booking online, and thankfully it is a fairly simple process, in essence, you need to have a valid driver's license. And if you are over the age of 20, then you can rent a 2-wheel drive car. In order to rent a 4-wheel drive car, which I will get into why that would matter later on in this video, is the age of 23 or over. Now, I have heard people ask me if they need an international driver's license, and you only need that if you have a license that is not in English or not in Western alphabetical letters. So if it happens to be in another language but in Western alphabetical letters, then you just have to show a translation of that driver's license. But if it's not in Western alphabetical letters, then you need to have an international driver's license. Number 2 is one of the money-saving tips, and that is when you actually book your car. So the time of the year makes a huge difference in Iceland. Summertime is when the majority of people end up visiting the country and a lot of cars get rented. And so the prices of cars really skyrocket during that time. So if you're planning to visit in the summer, make sure you keep that in mind and try to budget for the fact that it could be hundreds of dollars more to rent a car in the summer than say in the winter or the fall or even spring. So summertime is legitimate peak time for prices and of course for people who are visiting the country. In order to help you save money any time of the year, I actually partnered with Go Car Rental Iceland for this video, and I have a discount, Iceland 10, which will save you 10% on your full booking no matter what time of year you book. But just to give you an idea of how useful not only this discount is, or possibly coming at a different time of the year than summer, I did a price comparison on what it would cost to rent a car. So 3 days in late July versus 3 days in October. And what I found is that in late July, for the same car, which is a Volkswagen Polo automatic, because a lot of the people who watch my channel are from the US and possibly only drive automatic, the cost for those 3 days on Go Car Rental Iceland's site was $556. Now in October, that same car for 3 days is $189. And this is not at all unique to Go Car Rental Iceland, meaning that every car company in Iceland charges more during the summer significantly because there's higher demand. Also, it's pretty typical that for summertime, car rentals get booked out very fast. So if you're planning to come in the summertime, definitely make sure that you're looking months in advance in order to book your car, because then you have the opportunity to choose from a larger variety of cars that are available versus just what's left over that you can find if you try to book it like a week before your trip in June, July, or August. So if you're really on a budget, choosing a shoulder season time like the fall or the spring, along with that 10% discount, which that's in the description, you can save a good chunk of change that can go towards doing another activity or for your accommodations. Number 3 is knowing the right type of vehicle to rent for your adventure. And this, of course, will vary on what you're trying to do, but the most typical types of cars that are rented in Iceland are 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, camper vans, and regular vans. So let's just say that you're a person that wants to go driving around the ring road of Iceland, so that's all around the country, or even just to the Golden Circle. These roads are paved. You don't have to worry about instances where you have to cross rivers, anything like that. So a 2-wheel drive would be perfect for you. However, if you're somebody that wants to go into the highlands and see some of these amazing places that I've talked about, like Hveradalir or Landmannalaugar, then you need a 4-wheel drive car because the roads there are intense, and also 4-wheel drive cars are the only cars that are actually insured to be driving in the Highlands and on what's called F roads. Of course, camper vans are for people who want to save a decent amount of money and utilize their car as their accommodations, maybe even where they cook, and their transportation. If you're renting in wintertime, there's one really helpful thing to know, and I believe all rental car companies in Iceland do this, which is they put studded tires, so nail tires, on the cars in order to provide more traction when you're driving out in the countryside, because sometimes the roads can get a little slippery due to ice or recent fallen snow. Number 4 has to do with insurance for the car. Now, some car rental companies actually come with some form of insurance included when you rent it. However, that's not the case for every one of them, so make sure you check that regardless of which car company you decide to go with. Referencing Go Car Rental Iceland site and what they include, because that's my go-to car rental company when I need to go on adventures and use a certain type of car. They include 3 different types of insurance in the final cost of your car rental, so you don't even have to really think about it. And that, of course, is CDW, which is collision damage waiver, SCDW, which is super collision damage waiver, and then gravel protection. So of course, the first 2 are really important if there's ever an accident, but gravel protection in Iceland is very important because there are often little pebbles on the road, and of course you might actually drive on a physical gravel road, but a lot of the ring road in Iceland that goes all around the country is paved. However, there can be pebbles on the road, and a car can of course accidentally kick that up and crack your windshield or crack the headlight. So it's nice to already have that included in your insurance if that were to happen, so you don't have additional costs that you need to pay. Now, there is one type of insurance that is an additional cost in Iceland that is very important for people to understand, and that is sand and ash protection. I know that might sound like, okay, Iceland, sand, maybe ash you understand because of the volcanoes, but there are a lot of deserts here actually, and it is not unusual for us to have windstorms. Some of those windstorms have gusts that are hurricane gale force winds. Insane. It can mean that if you're driving out in the countryside, that the wind could pick up some of that sand or the ash, brush it up against the car, and that rips the paint off the car. Yeah, this is real. Or even like damages the windows, things like that. Unfortunately, it's not that rare for it to happen. It can happen to people who are living here, of course, and to those that are just traveling. And so the sand and ash insurance, in my opinion, because I like to err on the side of caution, is something that I would absolutely put on the car. Just because you can find yourself in a situation where something like this happens, and it could be even the fact that your car is parked where you're staying and there had been a windstorm that night and some damage was done to the car due to wind. But this is something for you to consider, and it's completely up to you if you want to add it or not. One thing that I often recommend to people on my one-to-one Iceland trip planning calls, and of course if that's of interest to you, you can check that out in the description, is for you to check out, like say if you have a credit card, if your credit card actually covers car rental insurance when you're traveling, so in another country or wherever else, because maybe you can save money in this way of being able to utilize that insurance. I don't know, just to be honest, if sand and ash is something that credit card companies would cover in Iceland, but it doesn't hurt to ask. And if you're already using your credit card and paying, whatever fees for that, it could be a way of you saving money. If you do decide to use the credit card insurance as opposed to the insurance that is provided by the car rental company, then you waive any ability to claim under the car rental insurance that would have originally been part of your total cost when you booked the car. Number 5 is one of my money saving tips I talked about, and that has to do with mileage limits. So most car companies have it written somewhere, look in the fine print definitely, as to whether or not they include unlimited miles when you're driving in the country, or if they cap it at some point. Because I know in the summertime I'm trying to go everywhere possible, having unlimited mileage makes a huge difference. And if you are planning to travel around the country, especially around the ring road, that is something to make sure that the car rental company that you're using includes unlimited miles. Because when you drop your car off, you don't want to end up having an extra charge that is for miles that went over the amount that you were allotted because you weren't even aware that there were mileage limits in the first place. Just know that short-term rentals, meaning cars that you're renting for under a month, when you book, having unlimited miles makes a huge difference in cost. If you want more insight and tips on what you should do when you say pick up your car in Iceland, because that's a whole nother story, driving around the country, because there's a lot to consider there, how to avoid a speeding ticket, which can be astronomical price-wise, just as FYI, and much more. Definitely check out my ultimate guide to renting a car in Iceland. You don't have to download anything, it's just a simple link. It's in the description below, and I went through everything that you need to consider, including some traffic signs that might be unique to Iceland, driving in roundabouts and things of that nature. So I tried to hit on every possible aspect of renting a car and of course driving around the country so that you feel prepared when you come, so that you can enjoy being on the road and seeing all the beautiful sights. Don't forget that you can save 10% by using my discount Iceland 10 with Go Car Rental Iceland. They have great rates, awesome customer service, and a large variety of vehicles to choose from. If you've enjoyed this video, definitely make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who you think would find it useful for planning their Iceland adventure. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.